So now popular South African television host and actress Precious Kofi has changed gears to focus on her love for contemporary art. And the rewards have been swift, with her artworks being exhibited at big international festivals such as the Lateral Galeria and in Brazil and the Bell Projects in the United States in 2022. Now, with another planned exhibition in South Africa also in the year, Kofi says her artworks are highly expressive, and she speaks to us now about her full move to art and the upcoming exhibitions. Now, thank you so much for your time, Precious, and good morning to you. Let us just start off with your move from being an actress and going into art. Why did you decide on this, and how has that been for you?
Thank you so much, Stefan, for having me on. It's hard for me to say that it was a move that I planned. I think it was sort of a moment in my life where I, just like everybody was doing in let's say 2020, where we were exploring ourselves in ways that we may not have before. So that was the experience for me. I just wanted to explore different parts of myself, and I wanted to communicate ideas, thoughts, maybe even stories. And then art just sort of became the natural way for me to do so.
So tell us then, what inspires you when you do your artwork and when you paint?
I think it's a number of things. I can't pinpoint one specific thing. So if I look at this current moment, I find myself feeling inspired by conversations with people. You've mentioned it before already that my work is very expressive, and I'm an expressive person. So I have experiences and conversations, sometimes just conversations with myself. And during the dream time and the dream state, I dream colors and movement and such things. And so when I wake up, I have to paint immediately. Sometimes it's similar to what it is that I dreamed during the night. Sometimes it's not. So it's not one particular thing. I feel like life itself is an inspiration.
Now, Precious, you mentioned earlier the issue of COVID-19 and how people had to kind of redevelop yourself as a human being because of this virus. Just tell us how that pandemic and this pandemic has really affected the work that you do, not just as an actress, but now as an artist too.
I think what I'd like to do in this particular moment is sort of, because I feel like we have a full idea of COVID-19 as far as the tragedy of it, right? I also do think that there's another side of it that we often don't get the opportunity to look at. And that side is just a side of silence and internal discovery, and just sort of trying to find out if I'm not in the rabbit wheel or just running from place to place and having that repetitive moment of day to day clocking in and clocking out of a life experience, then who am I? What am I? What would I do if I had the time to explore myself fully? So that was the experience for me, asking myself questions that have brought me to this conversation with you right now.
And it is important, isn't it, for one to redevelop themselves or to reintroduce yourself, really, which is something that you have done?
I think it is important. I think that even if one doesn't offer themselves to a more public space, I think that the development of self sometimes does come naturally, right? Because we're all aging, whether we like it or not. The years are going past, whether we want to stop time or not. And then maybe it is then a choice as to who it is you choose to be. Because you get to that age of accountability where you can no longer point to, oh, I was this person because of this circumstance or this situation or of this influence. And then you kind of have to stand on your own feet and ask yourself those important questions. Who am I? Who do I want to be? What do I stand for? What is my purpose?
Now, Precious, you've mentioned that your artwork is expressive, that you express yourself quite a bit in the work that you do. So when somebody goes to one of the showings where your artwork is displayed, what would you like for people to take from the work that you do?
I desire for people to feel, just feel. And there's no correct feeling and there's no incorrect feeling, but to kind of give yourself a moment to stand in front of the work and to express yourself in whatever way you feel you should. Just, that's my desire. I often say to people that you don't need to know anything about art. You don't need to have an idea. You don't need to even put meaning to it. You don't need to define what it is that you're seeing. You don't even have to have words for it. Allow yourself to feel. Start from there.
And you've mentioned that you don't need to necessarily love art or to understand it. But for those that don't necessarily enjoy viewing artwork, what is so special about yours that people will say, this is definitely something that I enjoy seeing?
I think that the more people get to know, firstly, my journey within the art space, how it began, and also when one has a peek into the process of how it is that I create, then they'll see that there's no differentiation between me and the viewer, that I too am a person and my artwork is simply my fingerprint. And I think that people really appreciate that level of vulnerability, because through my work, I allow myself to be seen. There are experiences of me, some that I don't like so very much and some that I really, really do like, but I put it all there on the canvas. And I try as hard as I can to not even judge myself. So I feel that energetically, those who view the work, they feel that too. And my allowance of not judging myself, in a way, gives one permission to choose not to judge themselves too, whether or not they like the work. That's not of importance. Just feel and allow yourself, as I said, to feel the work.
You've spoken now about being vulnerable in your artwork. Is that not something that scares you quite a bit when you show so much of yourself in the work that you do?
I like that question. Thank you for that. So there was a moment in my life where I decided whether or not I wanted to be seen. And that decision was about whether or not I wanted to see myself. And so it seems that the decision that I made is that I chose to see myself, and myself no longer scared me, or I no longer wanted to hold back as to how I show who I am in the world. It was sort of an allowance to just simply be. And yes, it can, it can have a moment where you are a little bit scared, but that moment, thankfully, only stays when I'm creating. Sometimes our heart is pounding. Sometimes I am, very emotional and crying as I paint and releasing an emotion. And sometimes I'm dancing and having a party. It's all very personal, and I'm always alone when I create. Yeah. So all of that happens in that experience. I get to live it and I get to let it go. And when I'm done painting, I'm done. And I don't mind how it is that it is received, because I allowed myself to be, and therefore it's only fair and correct for me to allow others to just be, no matter how it is they choose to see me.
Now, Precious, where can people then get your artwork? That's the first question. And the other is, what is next for Precious Kofi?
Okay, so that first question, so I am exploring an idea and an experience which I quite love, and that is to create within the country that I'm at. So in the shows that you mentioned for Brazil, for example, all the pieces that are going to be in that particular show, I will have created in Brazil. All the pieces that are sold in the USA show, I would have created in the US. All, so it is with South Africa and all the other spaces that I'll be collaborating and connecting with. And the reason for that is that I am so easily and beautifully influenced by my surroundings. And I feel that I want to explore that even more, because I know that work I create in the United States will not look or feel the same way as work that I create in Brazil or in South Africa. So then for your second question, I feel like I've answered it there too. There is much I want to explore within the space of art, but simply within the space of storytelling and writing my purpose as a result.
Any possibility of us seeing you once again on our TV screens as an actress?
Anything is possible.
That is... Thank you so much, Precious Kofi. Thank you so much for your time, contemporary artist there, just speaking to us about her work and what she's been getting up to and really the way forward for her and her artwork.